Hello, it's friend Renee here, and welcome to the It's In You podcast. So today we are going to be talking about imposter syndrome. So it's something that affects all of us. Actually, in fact, 82% of people have been affected by imposter syndrome. And I want to talk about it because I just noticed myself how things creep up in you. And I've just recently started doing I made the decision a couple of months ago. I've been toying with it for a very long time. And I made this decision to start following my intuition more. And, to really start, really start tuning into more to what my body and that was telling me. And it kept telling me and it has for years, to start to do my yoga course to become a yoga instructor. So I guess I've had these thoughts about doing the course, and then I've looked into it a little bit, and then I think I can't do that. It's not for me. So that's, no, it is for me, but that I'm, I'm not sure how I can do it. And then I, put it backpedal for a while, and then I come back to it. So I finally, kept saying, this keeps coming up to me. I really need to do it. So I made this decision that that's what I was going to do. I was going to start doing it, to do my course to become a yoga instructor. And it's something I'm really excited. I'm really excited I made that decision. Like I said, for years it has been something on and off my mind that I should be doing it, or something I should do. And so I thought, well, I better start doing more different types of yoga classes, to work out, to compare and practice and try, and instead of just doing my own type of version. So, I want to learn from more people. And so the first yoga class that I went to, I had researched some and, worked out what worked with my current timetable and what I could fit in and what type of yoga I liked. And so I went to this class, and the instructor, he's saying all the names, all the technical names, and I felt so overwhelmed. And obviously I went in there with the headset of, this would be me one day, could I be doing this? And I really spiraled into, I can't do this. I could never, how am I ever going to remember all those names? And, I'm terrible with my left and my right. And I probably came up during that one class, I probably came up with a million reasons why I couldn't become a yoga instructor. The thing is that I was lucky enough that I can recognize that I'm doing this, and I can stop myself. I can start stopping the thoughts from stopping me, because years and years and years ago, they did stop me. So when I lived in Glasgow, I first did my training to become a personal trainer. And when I did that, I had a job at a gym, and so I pretty much offered me the job. They just wanted me to do a little trial, and it worked in with the hours that I was currently doing at my office job. And so I spoke to them and everything, and then I had to go do this trial. And during the trial, I had to stand in front of people. So I had to stand in front of people and motivate them and all of this. And I was terrified of it. And I was terrified, and I told myself I couldn't do it, and I never went back. So I had the trial and all that all booked in, and I didn't go back. That put me off for years, and it's so silly because I stand in front of people every day now and don't think a thing about it. And it terrified me at that point. The thing is now is I look back at that and I look back at that time. I remember how I felt, and I stop it from continuing to affect me. I had the same feelings when I started training. I became a personal trainer, and I started training group classes, and I was terrified. And I remember thinking, what happens if I do it wrong? What happens if they question me about something and I don't know it? I again had a million reasons not to put myself out there, but I got through it. And so now when I start to recognize this coming up again, I remind myself what I've already achieved, doing this yoga class and, this instructor and he was great, and he was going through different, he was like naming them all their technical names, and I was like, how am I ever going to pronounce that, remember that, and then I had to stop myself and say, Renee, you felt the same way when you became a personal trainer. You felt the same way. You were so worried, and now it's just like second nature to me. I stopped myself from spiraling, and then I've been to more different classes with different instructors, and the more things I've done, I was just said, keep your mind open. Let's just keep seeing how you go. So the more things I've done, I've been able to see, they do it this way. They do it this way, right? I can, and what I'm doing at the moment is I'm trying to work out a version that is my style, while I'm doing my trainings. That's where I'm at. But I wanted to talk about imposter syndrome because it affects a lot of us. And, maybe you've had similar thoughts that what I'd had, and maybe you've stopped from achieving your actual dream, and when I first I was at that trial at that gym and I didn't go, I was, I stopped myself from doing what I wanted to do for years. So it was a couple of years. I can't remember how many years before I actually, started doing my own class. And now I think, oh my God, if I let that stop me, I wouldn't be doing the thing that I love the most. So what I want to do is bring more awareness to imposter syndrome and how you can look to, some strategies that you can look to overcome it. And please understand, you are not alone. Like I said, 82% of people have had these feelings of inadequacy, not being good enough, self-doubt, unworthiness at some point in their lives. They feel that their accomplishments are not good enough, or they still haven't accomplished enough, instead of knowing that, their accomplishments are the results of their own, their knowledge and their hard work and their preparation, instead of understanding all of those things, you still feel inadequate. This is if you have these feelings about a lot of it is in the workplace, if you have this in your workplace, or in your relationship, or in your life, you may be suffering from imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is defined as the feelings of unworthiness or incompetence despite achieving accomplishments and success. It can manifest in any part of your life. People that have it tend to go to great lengths to hide it, and it can definitely stop you from achieving what you want to achieve and stop your success. I really, really believe that we are all here for a reason. I think everybody is unique and they all have something to give to the world or to somebody, and to make a difference. You can make a difference some way, big or small. And this imposter syndrome is stopping you from putting yourself out there, and from really achieving the things that light you up. And when we are being lit up by things, when we are being lit up by doing the things that we're most passionate about, that we really want to do, that make us feel good, when we are doing those things, you just feel amazing. And, and what I want for everybody is to be leading the life that they want, to feel as good as possible, as much energy, and, and not to feel stressed or down, and stopping yourself from doing things. And imposter syndrome is one of the things that will stop you. And as I said, it stopped me for a long time, because I felt like I wasn't good enough. I was scared to stand in front of people. If I didn't get over it, or I didn't work out how to move forward, I would have never had the experiences that I've had now, and I would never have the job that I don't even feel like I have a job. I feel like I love every minute of it. And that's how I want everybody to feel with doing something that they feel that passionate about. Sometimes people that have imposter syndrome, they feel like a fraud. So even though they might be smart and skilled and capable, they feel like they don't deserve, any awards or commemorations or any praise that they are actually given. So instead of celebrating their accomplishments, they worry that they have somehow tricked people into thinking that they're good enough, and then they consequently also live in fear of being exposed, or found out that they're not genuine or proper, when they are. It's just this imposter syndrome taking over. And there can be so many reasons why, you can have this way, feel like imposter syndrome and feel this way, and it can be to do with perfectionism. It can be to do with how you've been brought up or people around you, but regardless of what's caused it or caused you to feel that way, it's not good. It's toxic, and it's not a great way of thinking. It reduces your self-confidence, lowers your self-esteem, and, really limits your ability to celebrate your success. So let's really, really look at just what we can do to get rid of it. So if you are listening to some of the things I'm saying, you're thinking, maybe I do have imposter syndrome. So how can you tell if you have imposter syndrome? A lot of times it can be overlooked as it comes up in our everyday lives. But so you might be suffering from imposter syndrome if you say you find it really hard to accept any praise. If you find the fear of failing paralyzing, so you won't do anything because you're too scared of even trying. You feel like if you got a really good grade in uni, or you did really well on a work project, and you'd worked really, really hard to get it, you would just feel like you got lucky at that. It was just luck. So you wouldn't actually acknowledge that it was the hard work that you did. You apologize for yourself when you actually didn't do anything wrong. You hold yourself to really, really high standards. A lot of the times, standards that are impossible. You don't want to come across or express your confidence because you will fear that people will think you are up yourself or obnoxious. You convinced that you are not enough. People close to you might say that you're not as confident as what you used to be, because imposter syndrome does tend to knock our confidence down. And you could be suffering imposter syndrome if you tend to turn down opportunities for growth at work because you're too worried of taking that next step or what it would mean or any of those things. So it's really important to just start to recognize, like, is this something that you're doing? Is this something you're doing? Do you have these, thoughts? And is it starting to take over your life? Because if it can really, really take over your life. And the other thing is, it stops you. It can cause depression, anxiety. It can affect your job performance, affect your job satisfaction, affect how you act with your family and your kids, and it really can cause burnout. So there's lots of ways, that it can affect your body, and we really, really want to start stamping it down and getting rid of this imposter syndrome. So my first tip is to get rid of imposter syndrome, or to start overcoming it, is to recognize that you are not alone. So you are not alone, and that most people, over 82% have suffered from imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. And, mostly large, hugely successful people who, you may not have even think would have suffered imposter syndrome, do. More people than what you reckon, that you would know that, feel like they haven't been good enough, aren't worthy of their achievements or what they're doing. My next tip is so understand you're not alone, and then start learning the facts. So let's start learning and understanding more about how you are thinking, and how that is impacting your choices, your decisions with your work or your life or what you're doing, and how it may be stopping you. So if I let imposter syndrome win, if I let it come over me, I wouldn't be continuing to do my yoga training. If I was letting it overcome me, I would never have ended up working as a personal trainer, because my first initial thoughts was I was too scared. So it's really important to start to learning more about it. It's really common for people with imposter syndrome to experience burnout, and it can cause you leading to burnout. is that we want to take a step back and start looking at the bigger picture. You know, we want to start understanding what this internal dialogue is telling us. You know, like when we do something, what are the thoughts, you know, coming to us, and what is this little voice telling us that we can or can't do? And how often does this happen? Because a lot of times this is going on and we're just so used to it. We just don't even, it's going on and we don't even recognize that it's doing it. So once we start to learn the facts about what's the stories we're telling ourselves, what's our thinking, we then want to start sharing your feelings. Don't hold on to this stuff. Share it with a close friend, share it with someone you feel comfortable with, but start acknowledging and getting those feelings out. Because the other thing is, I've really found is when people start to express how they feel, they realize even more that they're not alone. And then they'll say, oh, you felt the same way. And then you realize you're not as crazy. And I really think that they're not as crazy as you may have thought you were. And I really, really feel that people who keep secrets, and they try to keep secrets, or they try to keep this thing secretive, it's that is burning away in you, and it's, you know, it's eating at you. And we just really want to let go of it. These imposter syndrome feelings, you know, they'll lead to you stopping doing what you're doing, what you want to do, stop achieving what you want to achieve. And that's why if you can start sharing how you're feeling about something, then, you know, then you might realize what you were thinking is not true. So my husband started a new job. And he was, you know, in this new job, and it's a very different job to what he's done before. So he came from a big, large corporation, you know, and they had like performance reviews and all of those things. And so when he started this job, he was like, you know, not knowing if he was doing good in the work or not. And again, he didn't have direct experience, and he was feeling, starting to feel like he wasn't good enough and that he wasn't doing it right and anything else. And so he called it out. So he shared how he was feeling and he called it out, and, you know, he realized from sharing that and then speaking to the people that he was actually doing really, really well, but they just, you know, they worked differently, as in didn't, to what, you know, they different, smaller company, different field, you know, so what he was expecting, they weren't doing, but they didn't do it, but he would never have known if he didn't speak up and share how he was feeling. And from all of that, he then realized, like, oh, I'm actually doing really well, you know, where they acknowledged that, you know, they didn't do the appraisals, you know, or the performance reviews that he'd had in other jobs. So that's why he was expecting that. And, you know, but that's why we really need to share how we feel. And lots of times when you do that, will recognize that it's, you know, what our thoughts might be telling us and what reality is two very, very different things. We really want to also start to celebrate our successes. You know, we really want to celebrate the things that you do achieve, and because it's really, really easy to forget when, you know, we want to be celebrating the things we can do. We want to be able to accept somebody saying congratulations to us. So, and, you know, and think about it. So I want you to think about, how do you respond when you get praise from someone else? Do you feel like you're deserving of that? Do you want them to quickly move on and get you out of the limelight? Like, what are your thoughts on that? And it's really, when you start to take note of how you're feeling and how you're acting, then you can work on that to really improve those feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness, and, you know, get rid of that imposter syndrome. And we want to celebrate our successes, big or small. And I think it's more important to celebrate the little successes. Lots of times in programs I run, people come up and they'll think that they're not progressing. And I always try to teach them about looking at the small stuff, because all these small things, they add up. They all add up to the big picture. And most people that have long-term success, it's not the big, they don't have a, big dramatic change. It's how all these little things have added up over time. So that's why it's really important to celebrate your success and understand that you are doing really well. You know, what you're doing is working. Now, my fourth tip is let go of perfectionism. Life is not perfect. Nothing is perfect. And we have these thoughts that everything has to be perfect, has to be perfect time before we start doing anything. I can't do this in my job because it's not the perfect time. Any of this really high standard stuff, it's setting you up for failure. Nobody is perfect. We are not, whatever you are looking to achieve, it is not going to be a perfect run. And I think when you really let go of those perfectionism, let go of the thought of being perfect, it's just like a big weight off your shoulders. And when we let go of it and we just understand the process, just take one day at a time and keep moving forward, then you will keep moving forward and we won't give up. But perfectionism stops us because it stops you from starting. It stops you from continuing, and it's unrealistic. Nobody is perfect. Nothing is perfect, and nobody, there will always be something in the way, or, some hurdle you've got to come across. And when I think you start out understanding that, and, understanding that and knowing that you cannot be perfect and that we're not meant to be, I think trying to be perfect is hugely stressful. And it's definitely not. I'm very far from perfect, and that's okay. Totally okay. That's just, and I think we all need to become okay with not being perfect. Also, if you think about the way that you're talking, so if you are talking about perfectionism, I'm just a perfectionist, it has to be that way. And some people talk about perfectionism as a really good quality, and something that makes them more diligent. But in my experience in training people and helping people live how they want to live, perfectionism is one of the things that stops you. So it stops you from achieving. My next tip is we've got to have some compassion, self-compassion. It's letting go. It's again like letting go of your perfectionism, understanding that we are not perfect, and have some compassion for yourself, that you will make mistakes. Somebody with imposter syndrome, their thought process and all of that will lead them, how they're thinking about a situation will lead them into moving in another direction. But when you have, some compassion for yourself, we start to understand that we're not perfect. And, I was in the class and, was doing this and I was like, he may be, again, these are how I had to talk myself out of it, of, saying, well, this instructor's probably been doing this for many, many years. And of course, he has acknowledged you are just starting out. So I had to remind myself I was a beginner. And then I had to go back to how I felt as a beginner, as a trainer, and we've really got to have that compassion for yourself. And it's really, really important in having that long-term success, because, we are our worst critic. And this imposter syndrome feeds on all of that stuff, and it's just makes it worse. So we are not going to let that overcome us, and we are going to have some self-compassion for ourselves. My next tip is share your feelings. So again, the more that we keep these things inside, the more it builds up. So, hearing what other people think, understanding that you might, when you share your feelings, people may have realized that they've done the same, they have done the same thing, they've been in the same situation. I know when I share stuff with people and then they'll tell me they feel the same way, I'm like, oh my God, this, like I feel, when they say it, I'm like, oh, that's good. I'm not alone, or I'm not crazy, or I'm not imagining this. It's such a nice thing. And like I said before, when we just hold on to things, it really just builds up and it eats at us. And that's what we want. Share how you're feeling with people similar to you in similar circumstances, or, your colleagues or people, your family members, share your failures and understand that, that it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to get it wrong. And my last thing is acceptance. Let's get acceptance. So as you start recognizing that you have imposter syndrome, you start recognizing that, you're having these thoughts, and it's really important to just start sharing, to accept it. to accept that you feel this way. I think the more that we try to fight it in your head, you're giving it more power. So like I did in the, when I was in the yoga class, I did all this yes, obviously I wasn't tuned into the yoga class. My head was spiraling, thinking I wasn't good enough to be a yoga instructor, and this is what I decided I want to do. And I was watching this person move and left and right and different things, and I thought, I'm never going to be able to do that. And I had to accept it, stop it, and accept that I'm a beginner. I haven't done it for as long as this person. I haven't even started studying yet. I haven't, I had to tell myself all these stories, remind myself I am a beginner, and it is okay to be a beginner. And a beginner isn't going to know all the things that somebody has been training, doing the training or working in this position for a certain long, but I will learn it because I've done it before with other stuff. And that's the thing, is get that acceptance. And then, and I try to turn it into, use this as my driver, my driver. This is what I would like to be like, I can do this, and remembering, for me, I remember when I started and it was a struggle. You would panic when they had an injury and they needed like an alternative exercise. And I remember being like, oh, quick, just do this. When now in the classes I run, we have like 10 different people in the class, and maybe 9 of them all need modifications. Where if I had that at the start, I would have freaked out. Where now, when you get things that people just come up on the, on the spot, and you're able to adjust and work with, where I couldn't do that before. And I accept that it takes time. And I want you to become to that point too. If you have listened to any of this and you've started to resonate with it, and you're thinking, maybe I do have imposter syndrome, know that you are not alone. Know that I feel this way. And that's why I think as well why I wanted to share today, because it surprised me. And it surprised me how quickly my brain spiraled. It was how to spiral to not being good enough, to you can never do it like that, but I caught myself. And that's what I want you guys to start recognizing and catching yourself if you're having those thoughts. Yeah, it's debilitating, and it can stop you from moving forward. And that's not what we want for anybody. We want you to go out there and get it, and understand that you have a spot for you that's for you in life, and you are meant to do. And if it's like, for me, this yoga thing just kept coming back, and it kept coming back to me, and I'd push it away and it'd come back. And I was like, when I made this decision to start tuning more, I was like, okay, this is what you're telling me. I need to do my yoga course. So that's what I'm doing now. So I want you to recognize, if you do have imposter syndrome, recognize that you are not alone, and let's start taking some steps towards moving forward from it and from stopping us. We don't want it to stop us or stop our life from achieving the things we want to achieve. And you can do it. So quickly going over the steps now. So first things first, knowing that you're not alone. You are not the only one feeling this way, and you are definitely not alone. My second step is start learning the facts. So learn more about what your brain's telling you. Learn more about what it's telling you about your imposter syndrome, what it's trying to tell you about you're not good enough, all those things. And let's start catching those things. Share your feelings. So share it with more people, so you can, again, remember that you aren't alone, and you can get those feelings out. And I always say, when I get something off my chest, it feels pretty good than keeping it inside. When we do, we want to celebrate our successes. So we want to make sure we are celebrating our successes, big or small, and that all the small little things do really add up to a big change. The fifth step is letting go of perfectionism. We have to let perfectionism go. Understand that we are not perfect. Life is not going to be perfect. Your journey won't be perfect at work. Whether it's a health journey, any of those things, there's going to be speed humps. They are inevitable. My sixth tip, have some self-compassion for yourself, because we all make mistakes. We are all not perfect, and give yourself a break. 7th tip is share your failures. Share your failures because you will, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Failures are the best learning lesson that we can have, and it is something that is inevitable for all of us. So share them instead of be ashamed of them, and don't hide them. And my last tip is accept it. Accept that you are struggling, but know you're not alone and that you will work through it. I promise you. And if you haven't done it before, you will. And if there's something's coming to you like, I want to be doing this, I should be doing this, then that's probably the thing you should start going out for. So, okay, I'm going to love yous and leave yous. And please, if you have recognized that you have imposter syndrome and you would like some more help with overcoming it, please send me a message, because I would love to help. And it's lovely to hear, if you find that my podcasts are helping. So anyone that this could help with, please make sure you do share, because the more people that we share it with, the more people that we can get to understand that it is in you. It is inevitable that you can achieve whatever you want. And that's what it's in you is all about. Okay, I'm loving and leaving yous. Bye.